This week's episode is featuring NanoPack. NanoPack uses nanotechnology to deliver sulfur, copper, iron, manganese, and zinc to your plants. Visit stbiologicals.com to learn more about this and other regenerative ag products. Hello, and welcome to the ST Biologicals Soil Speaks podcast. This week, we'll discuss how to identify and diagnose a sulfur deficiency in your crops. Let's get started. There are 3 ways to diagnose a sulfur deficiency. Each has benefits and drawbacks. First is visual assessment, which is practical and quick, but not very accurate. Second is a plant tissue analysis. Well, this is more complicated, but you do get a better idea of which nutrients are limiting your crops. Third is soil analysis, which will give you a good baseline and should always include microbial analysis. How do these diagnoses relate to sulfur deficiencies or excesses? It's rare to have an excess of sulfur unless you've spilled some fertilizer. However, the majority of cultivated fields are now showing some degree of sulfur deficiency due to industrial agricultural practices, leaching, and high-yielding crops that take a lot of sulfur and other nutrients out of the soil. If you see symptoms of sulfur deficiency, you probably have a severe deficiency that will impact the yield and quality of the crop in this field season. Chemical analysis of plant tissue and soil show the hidden deficiency that isn't evident to the naked eye. With these tests, you may be able to save your harvest this year. Because the nitrogen-sulfur relationship is so strong, it's possible to diagnose sulfur deficiency or nitrogen deficiency by looking at the ratio of these 2 elements. Different crops have different sulfur requirements. Adequate and balanced sulfur nutrition varies with the development stage and species. Good record keeping will help you determine exactly which nutrients have been issues in the past and should be watched. In severe cases, sulfur deficiency shows up as chlorosis of the newer plant growth. This symptom is very similar to a nitrogen deficiency. The 2 nutrients are heavily dependent on each other, so a deficiency in one will create an imbalance in the other. The plant root structure should be analyzed for abnormalities. A sulfur deficiency will show up as enhanced root growth in some plants and decreased root growth in others. What you're looking for is abnormal root growth for that species. Above ground symptoms may include stunted growth and bending of the leaf blade. For some crops, such as corn, sorghum, and cotton, the plant will have a reddening of the stems and leaf edges with an overall purplish tone to the plant. Legumes are unable to effectively partner with soil microorganisms to create nitrogen nodules when they are sulfur deficient. Many of these symptoms are shared by deficiencies in other nutrients. That's why it's so important to have tissue and soil analysis done before adding nutrients. Most sulfur is spread as ammonium sulfate or gypsum, calcium sulfate. These products deliver sulfur in the sulfate form that plants uptake. Ammonium sulfate delivers a balance of nitrogen and sulfate sulfur. Gypsum delivers calcium that may or may not be needed. Gypsum is mined or created by a process called calcination. It's heated to drive off the water content. The result is the powdery form commonly used as fertilizer. Sulfur is a complex nutrient that is necessary for plant growth and a high nutrient profile. The protein content in soybeans, wheat, sorghum, and other crops won't be at optimum levels without a balance of nutrients, especially sulfur. Regenerative farmers and ranchers use the free labor of the soil microorganisms to supply sulfur to pastures and crops for optimum protein and amino acid profiles. Microorganisms break down organic sulfur in the soil into inorganic forms, primarily sulfate, SO4, 4,2-, which plants absorb through their root systems. This is called mineralization. Up to 98% of total soil sulfur is in organic compounds. The amount of elemental sulfur in the soil is large and becomes plant available with the help of microorganisms. Manure, compost, and crop residue all contain sulfur, and the activities of microorganisms release the nutrients for crop uptake. Higher soil temperatures, enough moisture, pH neutral or slightly acidic soil, and a good amount of organic matter all contribute to a natural source of sulfur. This is sulfur that is free, and who doesn't like that economy? Microbial biomass moves around, but the majority of microorganisms are found in the root rhizosphere. Sulfur is a highly mobile element and can be easily leached out of the many soils. When the sulfur is tied up in microbe bodies that die in the direct vicinity of plant roots, it is released in plant available form. The mineralization of free soil sulfur is only possible if there is a strong microbial population. Regenerative agricultural practices that emphasize no-till or low-till, cover crops, and crop rotations encourage a diverse microbial community. Sulfur is the fourth most important nutrient for plant growth. When you diagnose a sulfur deficiency, you're also diagnosing a plant and soil nutrient imbalance. No crop will achieve optimum growth or nutrient profile without a balanced soil profile. Using regenerative agricultural practices is the best way to achieve that balance. At ST Biologicals, we know sulfur and other nutrients lead to resilient crops with higher nutrient profiles. To learn more about sulfur deficiency in your crops, visit stbiologicals.com. When soil speaks, we listen. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.